Frank saw a cockroach in his cell. Most people wouldn't think much of it, but for super intelligent Frank, it was a big sign. The prison was very old. Since it was located in the middle of the ocean, the moist air had weakened the cement and rusted the metal. Now Frank had a chance to escape by digging through the wall, but what shook his mind was that Frank had started digging the wall with a nail cutter. He had stolen the nail cutter from the prison warden, Dollison, when Dollison had called him into the office to explain the prison rules. There were 2 nail cutters on the table, and Frank quietly took one. Who would notice a missing nail cutter anyway? Frank started digging at night while a nearby inmate kept watch. If a guard approached, the inmate would whistle to warn him, but with a nail cutter, Frank couldn't make much progress. He needed something stronger. During mealtime, an idea struck him. What about a spoon? The problem was, spoons had to be returned after eating, so Jack used a trick. He rubbed the spoon on the bottom of his shoe to dirty it and then asked the guard for a new one. While another inmate distracted the guard with conversation, Frank made his move. The guard thought Frank had taken only 1 spoon, but he actually took 2. However, digging with a straight spoon wasn't effective. Frank needed something more powerful. He traded his dessert with an old inmate for 2 metal coins. Then he collected a bunch of matchsticks. Frank broke the spoon and attached it to the nail cutter using the coins. He heated the joint with burning matches to melt the metal and forge a sharp tool. With this new instrument, digging the wall became much easier. He made fast progress at night, and by day, he'd carry out the loose debris in his pockets and scatter it in the exercise yard. Slowly, a large hole formed, but there was a problem. Behind the ventilator was a steel mesh that wouldn't budge. Frank needed another idea. He went to the prison workshop where inmates made various things. There, he secretly built a metal cutter. The problem was, it would be detected by the metal detector. But Frank wasn't just any prisoner. He boldly walked up to the detector with the cutter. When the alarm went off, he showed the guard the tool and said, "I'm taking this to hang laundry. Please allow it." The guard became suspicious and searched Frank, who pretended to be disappointed and returned the cutter. But the real trick had just begun. Frank returned to his cell and pulled out another cutter from his shoe. Now, cutting through the steel mesh became easy. Once the mesh was loose, he removed it from the ventilator. Still, escaping wasn't possible yet. 4 inmates had been working together, and they all needed to escape. Plus, guards were always watching closely. Frank made a fake ventilation exhaust. Using magazine paper, glue, and water, he created a fake mesh and pasted it over the real one, so everything looked normal from the outside. He still had one special task left. He crafted a fake head using paper and glue, painted it, and added fake hair. He placed it on his pillow and covered it with a blanket so it looked like he was sleeping. Everything ready, Frank slipped through the vent. Just then, a prison guard walked by. He saw Frank was already asleep and didn't think much of it. Frank began searching for the path to the roof. To reach it, he had to cut through another steel grate. Just then, the guard returned and asked a neighboring prisoner, "Why did Frank go to sleep so early tonight?" The inmate replied, "He's sick." Just then, the guard dropped his baton and it made a noise. But Frank didn't react. The guard became suspicious and reached out to touch Frank. Just then, the real Frank turns to look at him. The next night, Frank and another inmate climbed up. Using the other shoulder, Frank reached the steel grate, but it was too sturdy. He needed something like a drill. Frank, being who he was, had already spotted an old fan in the music room. He distracted the guards and slipped it into his box. He confidently walked in front of the guards, but they stopped him and asked to open the box.